Let's go, Jared.
Okay, so that was a taste of what we want to talk about tonight. The question that we want to speak to is, like, why, if this is you, why am I experiencing all this pain in life? And more than that, where is the hope for me in the midst of this pain? If you were here the first week, and this is what I'm kind of hoping that you kind of hear about every week, but if you were here the first week, we said that there are problems that happen in life. And our hope is that we can talk about the problems that we have in life, and more than that, not just talk about them, but point you to the hope that is found in the person of Jesus Christ. That's what we want to talk about. That's what we're kind of building off of tonight. And what I want to take you through tonight is I want to take you to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew 5 is a part of Jesus' teaching on this section of the Beatitudes. And as we look at these statements, we can see the desperation in these statements, and we can know that there are people that find themselves in these situations. These are real-life situations. Yet at the very same time, the beautiful part of the Beatitudes is that we can see the hope that Jesus presents for all of us inside of them. Now, in the words leading up to the Beatitudes, Jesus does some amazing things. And just to kind of name some of the stuff that Jesus does, he teaches, he preaches in the synagogues, he proclaims the gospel. It wasn't just law. That was what the teachers did. They just talked about the law, but he proclaims the gospel. He heals people that were sick with all sorts of diseases. And there was no disease back then that Jesus couldn't heal. I mean, today, think about it. We know people, they're sick, and their diseases, there's maybe a remedy. There's maybe a remedy on the way, but there's no solution, at least right now. Maybe we can treat it. Nothing that Jesus came across was unsurmountable. He was able to cure and heal every single person. People that were, like, they had demons, he took care of them. There's an epileptic. That was a person who had, like, uncontrollable seizures. He took care of them. There was a paralyzed person that was there. He took care of them. That gets us kind of set up to what we're going to look at right now in chapter 5. Before we get to actually the Beatitudes, though, I want to take you to one verse, verse 5. Verse 5 says this. It says that seeing the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came to him. Okay, so Jesus has spent time, he's been healing people, he's been teaching, all this amazing stuff happens, and then he gathers his disciples. Not because he's getting away from this crowd that's been building, his reputation as one who could heal, it's been building and building, but he doesn't escape all that. He gathers his disciples so that he can equip them to know that there are hurting people out there that they get to now make a difference in the lives of too. Now, okay, that's the setup. Let me take you to the Beatitudes. Let me read to you this beautiful section, starting at verse 2. And he opened his mouth and he taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. I don't know how the word blessed sounds to you. For a lot of people, the word blessed, that's a really cool phrase that they get to throw out to describe themselves. And for me, sometimes when I hear people talk about being blessed, they talk about stuff that they have. I have this. God has been good to me with this. I have all this stuff. Things are going really well. But being blessed goes way beyond just those sort of scenarios. Yes, it is totally possible to say that you're blessed because all these good things are happening to you. But how about these Beatitudes that we have in front of us? They paint a picture of being blessed when the good stuff is not happening. Why? How do you make sense of that? Here's how we make sense of it. It's to realize that no matter what good or no matter what difficult circumstances, that the single most important thing is that God is there with us in the midst of what is painful, that He is there. And because of that, that even then you can say that you're blessed. It's to know that God is bigger than the problems that we're experiencing. And as I think about these Beatitudes, I can't think of a better way to talk about these Beatitudes right now with you than to take you through each of these phrases kind of quickly. As I was looking at these phrases, I was like, you know what, these eight sayings, these 8 Beatitudes, we could spend 8 weeks talking about each of them one at a time, and maybe we will sometime. But right now, I want to just give you just a big picture of these and the picture that these give us of God wanting to be there with us in the midst of the painful stuff. The first one, it says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I don't know if you can relate to anybody, if you know anybody that fits in this category. We hear the word poor, and we might just kind of think that that's just economically. Yes, economically could be a part of it. So could spiritually. You could be spiritually lacking. So could emotionally. You could be emotionally drained. And being poor economically, just on its own, that's a tough place to be. As I was thinking about being poor, I can't relate personally to being like poor. Besides when I was a college student, just like paycheck to paycheck, or just trying to like maximize the money that I had in my account and things like that, I can't relate to being poor. But here's the thing that happens when you are poor in any of these categories, emotionally, financially, spiritually. When you're poor, when you're lacking, you come to a point where you realize that you don't have any resources. And then you got to figure out, where am I going to get these resources met? And the beautiful thing that shows up here is that we're invited in our poverty, when we're hurting, when we're lacking, to turn to God. Second Beatitude says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And us, we know what it's like to mourn. We have done a lot of mourning. It hurts. It's painful. Jesus, though, promises to meet us in our comfort, to meet us in our need. And the Bible is filled with all sorts of promises where God says He's going to meet us in our moments when we're hurting. There should be comfort in knowing that when we know somebody who's passed away, who was a child of Christ, that they are in heaven, right? There should be. There should as well be comfort in knowing that when somebody has passed away that was going through some just painful, like they were sick, they were suffering, that now they're free. They're free from that pain, right? That should help as we mourn, right? But mourning goes beyond just death. People mourn all sorts of things. I know people that mourn the loss of jobs, the loss of future, the loss of relationships, painful things that are happening at home, in marriages, right? Those are things that we can mourn. People can mourn the inability to have kids, right? I know people, they can't have kids. That was painful for them. They mourned that. We can mourn our sin. And in all those things, we grieve, right? We do. The question is, when you're hurting, when you're grieving, when you're mourning, where do you turn? Do you turn to God or do you turn to yourself? The invitation here is to turn towards God. Here's another one. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. You know, you're going to come across a lot of people in this life who are harsh, who are brutal, who are aggressive. And it is totally possible that God can get a hold of their lives, that God can do a work, that God can change their lives. Yet while we know these people, man, is it going to be hard to be in relationship with them? Check out here what God says for us. He actually says that for us, that the qualities of being gentle, of being humble, that will lead to inheriting the earth. Humility is where it's at. It's that humble heart that God wants, because the humble heart is the one that sees its need for God. Here's the next one. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. You know, sometimes when people are hurting, when they're going through really painful stuff, sometimes in our pain, we know where we should be turning for that hope. But sometimes we don't. We turn to like the dark corners of the room, hoping for hope, hoping for some sort of way to like deal with what's going on. I have a friend just going through painful stuff, and what do? They turn to drugs and alcohol because they think that that's going to bring them hope. Maybe that temporarily dulls the pain that they're going through. But eventually, you know what happens? Things get worse. The pain, it builds. By the way, as we name this right here, I'll just tell you, alcohol is the #1 drug of choice for teens today. And as I name that, and as I also name that it's a temporary bandage at best, I get to tell you that, man, stay away from that stuff because that will not bring you hope. Here's the 5th one. Blessed are the merciful. They will receive mercy. Back in Jesus' day, people were not merciful. They were just rude. They overlooked people who needed help. And this beatitude, it lets us know that when we need help, when we see somebody who needs help, we should help them. We should be there for them because that's what it's supposed to be like. And as well, we get to realize that there will come a day we're going to need somebody to come alongside and help us. All right, so here's another one, the 6th one. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. You know, you and me, we are never going to be on this side of heaven perfectly pure in heart. We have sin. We have this struggle with sin, right? So the point is for us here to see that pure in heart is a picture of what it's like to seek after the things that matter to God. Here's the 7th one. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. I know so many people, their first move when somebody attacks them is bad to them. They want to experience as much pain back on that person. They want to fight back. But how different would our relationships be if we pursued peace? Jesus went so far when talking about peace to say, turn the other cheek. Somebody hits you, turn the other cheek. Here's the 8th one. It's probably like 2 of them. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. The last one, it builds on that peacemaker. And it says that you're going to be put down. You're going to be insulted, ignored, made to look stupid. And in all of those things, know that those things are lies, that those things are not statements that God would use to describe any of us. God has this mind-blowing love towards any of us. And know that when you're persecuted, that God, He's been persecuted. His Son going to the cross, all the things that happened to Him. He has been tortured and brutalized on our behalf. And He can relate to the struggle that we find ourselves in. At the end of these Beatitudes, Jesus goes on and He gives a reason for His disciples, for His followers, to have hope despite all this. He says, rejoice and be glad. That might sound like a strange way to end this section that talks about all this painful stuff that people are going through. Rejoice and be glad. So why can we rejoice? There's at least 2 things here that show up that tell us why we can rejoice. The first is Jesus says that our reward is in heaven. One day for the Christian, we will be in heaven, free from all of the pain, all of the sin, all of the stuff. And there is hope that awaits you and me. Jesus also goes on and He says that for they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Okay, great. People before me, they were persecuted. Maybe that doesn't sound helpful, but know that as a Christian, you are a part of 2,000 plus years of history of Christians who have been a part of the struggle, that you're not alone. And as you realize that you're not alone, I hope that you realize even more than that God, that He is there with you. Sometimes it's really hard to realize that God is there with us. We see brokenness in the lives of parents, or maybe it's your own parents, brothers and sisters, family members, people who are constantly hurting each other, hurting us. We watch other people as they struggle through all sorts of abuse, all sorts of use of all sorts of chemicals and substances. Maybe that's even you. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you're in your hurt. Maybe you're just trying to find a way to cope with the pain. I hope that you know that in all of this, that there is a God who loves you crazily, that He wants to reach down and deal with your pain. And it might not magically just go away overnight just like that. It might require lots of talk, lots of processing. It might require deep amounts of forgiveness happening on your part or on the part of somebody else. It might require you having a deeper grasp on the crazy love that God has for you. If you're that person that's struggling, that you're just like, man, this is painful. I can't talk to somebody. Talk to me. Obviously, I'm not here tonight, but I'm here. Talk to me. Talk to one of our leaders. Talk to somebody who cares for you. You have a counselor at school. Talk to them. And maybe that group of people, that's a tough group of people for you to reach out to right now. If that's the case, talk to a friend. Talk to somebody who cares for you. And as a friend maybe says, okay, I care for you, I'm listening, but I don't get all of this. When a friend says that, when a friend says, hey, I've got somebody that I want you to talk to, take them up on that. Take that referral that they want to give you. Know this, know also that a good friend will do what is needed to take care of a good friend. A friend is a friend who rescues and takes their friend and loves their friend towards life. We took at least a part of our leadership team up at Inspiration Point 2-3 weeks ago. And while we were there, the guy that was talking, he presented some stuff that really spoke to all of us. He told a story. He told a story about a friend who came and approached some of his friends. And this guy, as he went to his friends, he said, I'm going to take my life. And his friends were like, what do we do? He asked them to promise him that they would not tell anybody about his plan to kill himself. And his friends, they honored his request to not tell anybody. And the friend, he took his life. Those kids, they met the guy that we heard speaking. And one of the kids said to him, my friend killed himself, and I knew he was going to do it, and I didn't do anything about it. When you have a friend who's hurting, be a friend who brings them to life. Help them. Know that there are times where it gets well beyond what you're able to do for them. And know that you get to resource them. You get to maybe pull somebody in. You didn't want to pull them in. You didn't want to go behind and kind of sneak around, but you knew that it was at a point where you needed to pull somebody else in. Man, that's what we love, being a part of your lives, especially in moments like this. So if I can invite you and steer you to me or to anyone else, and you find yourself in a moment like this, please hear me doing that. Our speaker at camp, he went and he talked a little bit more. He talked also about how can we encourage our students to be there for their friends when their friends are hurting. And he named 6 things. I'll throw them out in front of you. You're going to talk about them when you go to small groups too. But I'll throw them out in front of you. He talked about the value of humor. Okay, I like to use humor. That's one of the things I would say I hope that I'm strong about. He talked about empathy. Empathy is the ability to come alongside somebody who's hurting and to let them know that you really, really care for them, that you want to be there for them in all the painful moments that they're going through. He talked about availability. Simply telling somebody, I'm there for you. And letting them, when they are ready to come to you, letting them know that you really are there for them. He talked about being a person who is resourceful. That would be a person that knows that they have limits, they have things that they can do, but maybe you need to know that there are people that you can talk and take somebody else to. He talked about being trainable. A person that is that is willing to admit that I don't know everything, but I want to know more, okay? That's what a good friend does. He also talked about being a person who has this like servant spirit. That as we care for our friends, how important is it for us to be people who can just, I want to serve you. I want to care for you. I don't care about how this affects myself. When you're there for a friend, it will be messy. Okay, I want to set you guys up. I want to set you guys up so you can go to your small groups. You can talk about this more. You can talk about how can I be that person that I need to be for my friends. You can talk also about like, how is the stuff that you're dealing with? How is it affecting you? How is it hurting you? What is it making you want to do as well? We love you guys, and we want you guys to talk about this stuff. We want you guys to know that we are there for you, and more than that God, He is there for you. And I hope that looking at the Beatitudes, I hope that sets you up to know that part is so true.